Hello, everybody, and welcome to DKM Podcast episode 10. I am here with my friends, Danny and Marcos. How are you guys doing today?
Double digits, baby.
Double digits.
Yee.
Yep, I'm mommy. Wow, I'm a 10-year-old now.
Mommy, wow. So, as of today, the new Intel 11th gen CPUs have been announced, and the Z590 boards have been announced. How do you guys feel about
So rocking an i7 7700K, baby. Hey man, I just learned to be like, that looks neat, but I'm probably not gonna be able to get it, so I'm not gonna sweat about
it?
it.
Oh, you're gonna get it. Either that or get a 10th gen, dude. Because like I have a 10900K, and I'm super happy with the performance.
Hey man, I could play Yakuza 0 perfectly fine, and I could spend all my time in the goddamn karaoke and disco. So I'm pretty happy with my shit right now.
Go play Cyberpunk.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not too focused on buying PC parts, especially in a volatile state in which the economy seems to be in, and as well as a job. So I'm not too focused on that. But it is interesting to look at.
So, parts. 11th generation is now on a new 10 nanometer process instead of the 14 nanometer. They finally moved away.
Explain.
I'm really proud of them.
So it's called Superfin. It's something that Ryzen's been doing now for a little while, where they get like stacks, like they stack the wafer on top of each other in like fins rather than flat, so it'll be standing up rather than laying down. It's kind of like a weird, I don't know. It's more like marketing jargon. Okay. But it's supposed to help like the yields and improve performance and power efficiency and stuff like that. So that's pretty nice. So I got a Quest over the weekend.
Ah, yes. How is it?
So, you know all those people that just play Beat Saber? Yeah. Currently, I'm one of those people at the moment, but I have downloaded VR Chat, and I downloaded the demo for Super Hot. I'm waiting to get my paycheck in order for me to buy some more games, but I definitely want to try Population 1.
Super Hot is definitely
okay. Well, definitely must have VR games. I would recommend Robo Recall, because it is an Oculus exclusive.
I've been wanting that one.
You already have Beats. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fucking fun. It feels like John Wick, but you're fighting against robots.
Yeah.
Super Hot is phenomenal. Right. I spent an entire night playing that. That game is great. If you
played Super Hot like on console and then move to VR, it's such a different experience, and the story.
Oh, absolutely. It's like I have no reason to go back to like 2D Super Hot. Like I feel like Super Hot was made.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was meant for that. Well, narrative as well. It was meant to be played on a VR.
Oh, yeah. What else? We already got Beat Saber. That's pretty cool. Let me think. The Sprint Vector I also really like if you want to play Jet Set Radio, but in the future and you want to give yourself a good sweat. That's a fun game. Actually, honestly though, the VR scene, it's kind of crazy because it's
starting to blow up. It really is, and there's more.
Not just that, but it's been very quiet lately.
Oh, like, I haven't really... But there's new headsets, like new all-in-ones that are coming out. I've been, since anticipation of me getting a Quest, I've been learning more about VR and modifications and what's coming up next. And the Quest 2 is actually, like, visually the screens are better than the HP Reverb G2.
People buy the HP Reverb? I haven't heard like good things about it.
It has 4K screens now.
Yeah, but you need something to push that, and if the headset doesn't work as well.
Yeah, which I mean, you need like a freaking RTX 3090,
I will say though, with VR, I never thought this would have been possible. But do you guys remember why the Wii U had a gamepad, specifically for just that console?
So you could play while you're taking a shit?
No, so you can play while the TV's being used.
Off. Yeah.
Or the TV's off, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was playing Call of Duty with, the normal
Call of Duty.
Play Call of Duty, and my cousin's playing on the VR set, because on his PlayStation VR set because the rest of the household is using the TV, and I'm like, what? And he said he was doing all right with it. Obviously, it's not super clear on the picture, but he was having a fun time. He was having a fun time. Obviously, like something like Warzone, where you need to see maybe be a little bit more focused on
conscious.
Actually, that'd be a good idea.
Resolution wise, it'd be more important.
Oh yeah, you do get a visual hit. I tried the PlayStation VR because you could play PlayStation games without the TV through the headset. I think I tried it with like Kingdom Hearts 3, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but it's not really as immersive. I remember a friend of mine would, back in the day when like phone VRs were still kind of new, he would like get a VR headset to just like give himself like a theater experience. Like he's like a projector. But I just found it more of a headache to watch stuff like that in a long period, just sitting down, just watching something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I actually just booted up my old Rift S. I still have my Rift S next to me. Kenny, are you still using the face interface that came with the Quest?
Yeah, I just got it like 2 days ago.
Okay, I recommend you pick up a VR cover. Because I'm assuming that
I know I really want it. I'm gonna be picking up a Quest 2 because my fiance she's playing like Beat Saber more than I am.
So you're gonna get like 2 separate headsets.
Yeah, she's gonna keep the Quest and I'm gonna get the Quest 2. So, because she's not big into graphics. She's not big into graphics and stuff like that. She just wants to play something that works.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, okay.
And that works for her. You know what I mean?
Beat Saber's
I mean, I think the best thing about like VR, man, I like to imagine that like if something happens in life, I mean like we'll be like in the Fallout. I don't know which vault was it, but which vault was it? The one where everyone's in the simulation?
76. Oh,
no, that was 3. That was 3.
Simulation. I think that was Fallout.
Yeah,
wasn't that Fallout New Vegas, Marcos?
No, it was 3.
Was it 3?
It was 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like to imagine
20,
that.
No, the one I'm remembering, the only one that comes to mind is 22, which is the plant one. Dude, I can't remember. I'll look it up right now.
Well, I remember it. It was the pint-sized slasher one.
Okay. So what's your point?
Well, my point is though is that when something happens, and something will, we will be put into a vault similar like that, and we'll be in the simulation. But unfortunately, though, some jackass thought we should use VR chat, and everyone can do VR chat. I don't know how crazy have you been into VR chat, Ken?
I haven't even started it yet. Like,
baby,
I've only had the headset for 2 days. I've been working for 2 days, so I've barely been able to play.
Well, let me see. Well, you could go to VR chat, and what I like to do is I like to just be as awkward as possible,
right?
Because people apparently like to follow like social cues and shit, but I'm like, fuck it, dude. I'm a goddamn anime character talking to exactly. Hey, man, this shit gets really fucking funny, right? And I just be awkward as hell. Like a guy will be talking to a girl, and I'll just be like, so, hey, baby, you shit with that ass? Little toot toot, you know what I'm saying? And like I remember this one time, some dude walked up and he was like his model was Lego sheet, but his dick was completely out.
Oh.
And I mean, like that was weird. And then a bunch of other guys showed up dressed up as cops and like, hey, we're arresting everybody. We gotta get everyone up against the wall.
Daniel, it's Vault 112.
112.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I will say on a side note, Fallout 3 is inferior to New Vegas. I said my piece. Don't at me.
You said Fallout 3 is inferior to New Vegas?
Correct.
Well, it's because Obsidian made it, obviously.
No, it's not Obsidian, but overall everything else about it is better. But I do quite enjoy VR chat. It is I sort of miss the old days about the whole meme about the Ugandan knuckles and how
Ugandan knuckles. They still have them.
Yeah, no, they do.
They never died.
I love it how some people were saying it was a bit racist to make fun of the what Hollywood films making it a whole racist thing, but the directors of
roses are red, violets are blue. Everybody in Africa knows kung fu.
It was great. Even the creators of all all the movies for what Hollywood, dude, he was having a blast with the Ugandan knuckles. So
absolutely,
he was having.
It's always good to see someone like in on the joke, and it's like they build off of it.
Right. Which honestly, those movies from Hollywood, dude, they're such a trip. I love it.
I mean, the trailers are way better than the actual films because they're really boring and slow half the goddamn time. But the trailers are more.
There are some hidden gem jokes that you have to watch just to see it. Like one of the movies.
I don't know if this is from Hollywood, but the one about the guy's like, "Do you think you could graduate from this school without touching my cock?"
Oh yeah, no kissing. I think it was kissing or something.
Kissing my cock. Yeah.
There was this one where they were these people were robbing a bank, and this guy shot some glass, but it was bulletproof. And then the narrator says, "I have a key," and he pulls out a hammer from his pants, and he breaks the window. And I'm like, I mean, it works, right? But
it works,
I
yeah.
was having fun. But I mean, seeing VR chat and its potentials and the amount of memes people put in it, and by memes I don't mean like those. I'm not talking about like, oh, I look at this funny picture, whatever. I'm talking about like people put in like, here's Master Chief, right? And he's just chilling and everything, and then his helmet opens up, and it's a Ugandan Knuckles, stuff like that. You know, that people actually implement in the game and just meme the hell out of anything. It's quite interesting. It's a nice community to have, just to have around and have fun with.
Right.
Obviously, you gotta know where to go and what to find to see what's your cup of tea. But it's so much better with friends, even just with one friend in IRL.
It's interesting. I had a friend of mine who has like a bunch of hours in VR chat, and he gave me like showed me the ropes and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't played my VR headset in a while. But I definitely do want to get back into it. I was thinking about picking up Half-Life Alyx, but I think this is going to be surprising to anybody out there. It's like, oh, Danny's a PC gamer. I haven't really played much of the Half-Life games, and people were telling me, like, no, don't play Half-Life Alyx unless you play the other games because the story is way more impactful at that point. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll wait until I get around to playing the Half-Life games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know how hard it is to play, like, a 20-year-old game?
I'm still playing Mario 64.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Fuck
but
me,
we're talking about like the original Half-Life.
I mean, the reason why they got popular is because their physics engine was revolutionary at the time. And if you're still playing games like TF2, Gmod, going back to the original Half-Life games, it's not that big of a it's not a huge leap. You can still get used to it.
It's also pretty much a trendsetter for a lot of first-person shooters. Like, a lot of people forget there's a term called Half-Life clone.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't have a problem going back to older games as long as they are aged as well. Like, I guess you could bring up the Sonic Adventure games are a good example, or those games have aged as well. I personally think that they're fun, but I could agree that they have definitely haven't held up the best. But that's a whole can of worms that we could talk about.
I'm not too sure about when a lot of people at least to me, a lot of people can't seem to not care about lower fidelity and graphics in previous games or in previous installations of certain parts of of games in the series, and I don't quite understand it. I mean, you can look at, like with Kenny's case about going back to a game that's 20 years old. I mean, Halo CE, the original, I could still play that no problem, and go back to playing a newer Halo game, which the physics are obviously much superior, much more smoother, but I don't have an issue with that.
And the details more noticeable.
Right.
Yeah, but then you look at Half-Life, I think it just has to come down to polish, really. I mean, the end of it.
That and is the art style.
Yeah, has it aged well? Kind of like cell shading with like the original Borderlands, like came out.
I was going to bring
13
up
years ago, and it still looks great.
I was going to bring up the Zelda games. Like, let's look back at, Wind Waker.
Yeah.
You could play the GameCube version just fine because the art style is so good that you don't really need that extra graphical fidelity and power. And shit.
Exactly.
But when the HD version came out, it was like, oh, that's a nice shinier coat of paint.
Mm-hmm.
But when you went to go play Twilight Princess, that game clearly was trying its best to be as uber realistic as possible with the engine and art style they were given.
Yep.
I personally still think the game aged fairly well. I know some people, but if I had to choose which aged better, I guess I could give the reward to Wind Waker, but I can't like flat out say they're like, oh no, Twilight Princess, it's too much.
Right.
Like, I think people, for a good example, I don't know if you guys ever played Mario RPG, the game that everyone knows that Gino's from, but no one has actually played it.
A bit. Not all of it.
a lot of people might have a problem going back to Mario RPGs because it was like that Donkey Kong style 3D graphics.
Smash 64. Like,
it's the same thing with Final Fantasy VII. People still play the OG even though it looks the same way.
Oh, man.
Which is funny because like Final Fantasy VII at the time was that this was like, well, we need the power of the PlayStation to tell this story, and like look at it now, it's a remake and it's still on the PlayStation.
Yep.
I just feel like it's obviously if the game was developed well enough, and if your standards haven't really changed much, because obviously when I was a kid and I played GTA San Andreas, and then when I started recollecting on the memories that I played, the game looks so much different in my memories. When I went back and played on it, obviously playing games with better graphics, it looked different than what I was used to. But then obviously now since GTA San Andreas is in my recent memories, then it's something that it doesn't shock me as much. That's why anytime I get that thing in my head where like, oh, you know, this game, I remember it playing and it ran so well.
Yeah, it looked good. It was like, man, this game's great. And then you go back and it's like, wait a minute, that's not how I remember this.
Yeah, you forget how like streak-inducing Vice City was. Like, holy shit, like that game looks like a bloom factory. And going back to like Twilight Princess, that game on the Wii and GameCube had like bloom effect way too fucking much. But thankfully, when the HD version came out for the Wii U, they toned it down significantly. But yeah, that's sort of something that you look back on is like, oh yeah, and that's an interesting point because when the new Tony Hawk remake was coming out, they said that like, okay, so if this is a remake of Tony Hawk 1 and 2, what are you gonna add for like reverbs? Because reverbs were added in Tony Hawk 3 and this and that, and like the developers said like, we're not making a exact 1-to-1 remake of Tony Hawk 1 and 2. It's more like the Tony Hawk 2 you remembered as a kid, you know, from the early 2000s, not what you saw. Not what you actually played on the PlayStation, which is fine. I think that it makes the game a little bit better going back because it's like, you know, after years of like games from Tony Hawk 1 through 4 to Underground to fucking American Wasteland, and from then on, you start to think like, okay, these new mechanics were nice additions. They weren't like unnecessary additions. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah. But
because the Tony Hawk games had to like build on top of the other ones, and then at some point they're like, okay, guys, we kind of dried up the well, so you start adding a lot of unnecessary crap that doesn't need to be added.
Oh,
I think
I know.
Also with the skate games and how a lot more realistic it was when it comes to like, hey, like for Skate 3, to do a kickflip, you needed to, you know, first perform the ollie, then move the joystick in order to perform the kickflip. So it became how fast you can move that joystick in an accurate manner. And a lot of people prefer that because if not, you would be playing a regular Tony Hawk game. Like if you were using Tony Hawk Underground, which is the one I grew up playing with, you can pull up some pretty dumb moves just on flat ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you could fucking do the worm while you're grinding a rail and shit like that.
Right, which I enjoy the hyperbolistic nature of the game, but
it's more arcadey.
Right, so it's something that I quite enjoyed, but I can understand why they would want to do such a thing. And I'm not sure if you saw the speed runs for Tony Hawk.
Dude, I love watching the speedruns for Tony Hawk, especially the classic mode games. Like, you see people, like, complete goals in, like, seconds and shit. And it's like, damn, that's fucking cool.
Right, which is why I think also adding on to the whole going back to a game, oh, it hasn't aged well, hasn't done this. That argument, for me personally, goes out the window once you go into speedrun because you put so much effort and time into a game that it's a game that you just become super, like, ingrained in, that you become used to it. So when you play newer iterations of, I don't know, like maybe a Mario game, right? If you get used to playing Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine. If you play a newer 3D game like Mario Odyssey, obviously it's a lot more polished, obviously it's a lot more of this, but you don't have that oh, it didn't age well factor as strong as when it comes to someone who dropped the game, came back to it years later, then say, oh, you know, the game didn't age well. I've been watching a lot of speedruns. I've been even wanting to do some speedrun strats just to have fun with some casual gameplay, with Sunshine and even with Bloodborne. But it's nice to see that if you're constantly on a game and it keeps giving you time, like you keep getting more out of it because you put a challenge for yourself.
You reward your time put into the game.
Basically.
Right. Well, that's a question. Well, Kenny, you brought this up. What is have you played a game that you couldn't go back to because you're like, oh, I liked this when I was a child, but now it's
in recent.
Because I'm trying to think
I'm trying to think of a recent
me.
time that I've tried playing a game. Well, I want to say like The Witcher 1 was a hard game for me to even just get into to begin with. Like when I tried playing that game, years after it came out.
Yeah.
I'm actually opening up my Steam library to see if there's any games that I've tried to play that I can't just I can't go back to. Oh, you know what? The Brothers in Arms games. I know Marcos loves those games, but I can't. I really can't.
I think I've only played. It's the one with Hell's Highway, right?
Yeah, and Crisis is another one. The original Crisis. As weird as it sounds, there's a lot of people that use it as like a benchmark. I can't play it.
Can it run a Crisis?
Well, you see, but that's what Crisis 3 is for.
Yeah,
well, Kenny,
I could see what you mean.
I wanted to add on to your thing about Brothers in Arms. So my first one that I ever played was Earned in Blood.
Yeah.
And that was the one where the story follows Red. But I never played Hell's Highway.
You mean the Pokemon trainer?
The Pokemon trainer.
I wish, but
what the fuck?
It followed the story of Red. They called him Red because he was a ginger. And I've never played Hell's Highway. Everyone kept talking about Hell's Highway, Hell's Highway, Hell's Highway. Then in 2015, I played Hell's Highway because it was on sale for like a couple bucks. And I'm like, sure, I'll play it on Xbox. And some mechanics were different to Earned in Blood, but I quite enjoyed it. It wasn't a game that I was like, oh, disgusting. I didn't like it. Earned in Blood really made me sweat hard. It was one of the hardest World War II experience I've ever had when it came to a video game because you had to plan your men in certain spots.
It was more strategy focused.
A lot more strategy focused. And I legit got so salty if any of my men got at half health. I'm not talking about just dying because you some of your characters can die and they'll come back. I'm talking about half health, and I get so mad at myself that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna restart this level. But I played Hell's Highway. It felt easier than Earned in Blood, or maybe because I got better with video games. But I recently played it again in 2019, and both games, and it felt quite nice. Obviously, I'm not gonna say it didn't age well, but obviously it's stiff movements nonetheless. The strategies are still there, flanking's still there. It's still a brutal game, but I could see what you mean by trying to get back into it, stuff like that. It's not something that I don't. It's a relative thing. It's all relative.
Right.
Another game would be like Morrowind.
Oh wait, hold on.
Morrowind.
Those are fighting words, Doug. Those are fighting words.
You can fight me all you want. That game, after they introduced, the markers to where you have to go, and then the fighting mechanics, you're sitting there swinging a sword into this thing's face and you're meaning to tell me I'm missing, bro. Eat one.
Right.
Oh, that's what you get from going from traditional roll the dice RPG mechanics and try to visually put it in a gameplay perspective, and
it just doesn't work.
How do you gamify the turns and shit like that?
Right. That's the reason why, after playing more than 2,000 hours in vanilla Skyrim, and the reason why I hate it so much now is because when I started playing Oblivion and then Morrowind, narrative-wise, Skyrim's trash. Morrowind has had one of the best narratives out there, and just character build out of all these three games. Morrowind had the best what do you call this? Voice acting. The voice acting I just can't get enough of. In Skyrim it's the same dull repetitive thing. There are a few characters I love the voice acting in Skyrim, like Cicero. Cicero from the Dark Brotherhood, Jesus Christ. Whoever did his voice acting deserves a medal. That guy had an amazing voice acting thing. Just everything. It's just phenomenal. Oblivion was a meme overall, but the voice acting there was a lot better than in Skyrim. But I could see why you don't like.
You have those chubby faces that smile.
I didn't mind it. I can see why some people didn't like Morrowind with some of the reasons that you described are actually apparent in a lot of these arguments. But uh, it's just so much of the lore is
Oh
revealed
yeah.
in
I mean, my
Morrowind.
thing is like, Morrowind. I'm not saying the game's bad. I can deal with the graphics, but you have like issues with the what is it? Oh man, the LOD. Like it's so short
Hmm.
because you have the fog. You have that fake fog that hides the graphics loading in, and then you have the missing mechanics where you're missing while even though you're sitting there attacking, and then freaking things like attacking you. There's no markers, so you'd have to like mod in markers. I mean, I get it. Like you can read the
Right? Can you
narrative
not
and
read?
reread everything to know where to go, but at the same time, it's like video games wasn't meant for. I mean, it some games are meant for reading, but
I
like
mean,
that I feel like that should have been optional. Like you could toggle it on or off, but we're talking 20 years ago, so
that sounds like a normie gamer
More
argument.
vanilla World of Warcraft had that exact same thing. I still remember you have to like open up the quest guide, not the quest guide, but like the journal, and be like, okay, you have to go here to Westfall,
yeah.
take a bunch of steps north. Some people kind of like that, because some people don't like the fact that there's always a marker telling you to go everywhere.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't
Like
like having my
um,
handheld at every little moment, like I'm some sort of child. I'm an
Well,
adult.
I I'll,
that's why I'm saying like if it could be a toggle, that would be better. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know.
I could think of like with the GTA games. I mean, GTA 4, you had that like side quest where it's like try to find the the cars, right?
Hmm.
And you have to pull out a map, and you actually have to find it. Some people kind of like that sort of
Like
thing.
Pokemon
Um,
with the roaming legendaries.
that too. I'm trying to think. I remember there was a game that people kind of like. It was that you had to actually write down stuff, but some people argue is like it's could break immersion
Right.
Hmm.
because you have to break yourself out of the game into the real world and write it. But I guess if you could pretend like you're playing a role in the game and outside of it, I guess you could say that it does succeed in
Well,
that
here's a
way.
good example. The Metro series 2033. Your character writes down on a
Yeah.
pad your
Yep.
objectives, what you should do, but there is no marker. There is no
Yeah.
marker. You just go. Obviously, the maps are linear, so it's not that hard.
It's
But there's many
straightforward.
ways. Like one map that really sticks out to me because I played this level a bunch in 2033 was the one versus the communists and the fascista factions in the tunnels and in the metros. And there's many ways to get to the other side, from the communist end to the fascista end, but how to get there is quite interesting. Do you go the pacifistic route, where you don't kill anyone and you just slip past everyone in the dead of dark? Do you kill everyone uh, in silently, or do you kill everyone in just going loud and going boom? It's crazy. The game gives you different what is it, reactions on what your gameplay style is, and it rewards you in different ways. But there is no markers there. But yeah, your guy does write it down. I can see what you mean by it breaks immersion.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what I liked about Morrowind, that you can, which is what Skyrim won't really allow you, is that in Morrowind, uh, you're the amount of freedom you have in contrast to the other two Elder Scroll games that succeeded it. So
Hmm.
Oblivion and Skyrim is the amount of freedom you have to do anything. You want to kill a random dude just because you can? Sure. There's going to be a text box that says, "Hey, you ruined the this
This
path,
quest line. Yeah.
this quest line, and you're playing either reload a save or you're continue playing in this doomed timeline," which is fine. I didn't care. You can just kill everyone you want. You can create your own spells by mixing spells together,
Yep.
and you can make a spell that basically creates a nuke which crashes your game. It's the freedom in Morrowind that I truly enjoy, and I can see why people don't like it. But it's the type of person that some people are. Some people prefer action games, RPG games. Some people prefer mystery games, horror games, and stuff like that is it's again, it's relative. I I really enjoy reading, and then when I find out I could have done better if I would have read more on lore or on clues, I just kick myself over. A lot of games hold your hands nowadays, so it's.
This is true.
So.
Another game that I was thinking about was shoot, now I forgot. Oh, Stalker, the original Stalker games, the first two.
Yeah.
Those are hard to get into, at least for me. You know, like I said, each their own.
Have you played those games before?
Yeah,
or...
I have.
Okay. Were these games only on PC, right? They never got console ports,
Never
right?
got console ports.
Okay. I haven't played it. I have not played it, but
good.
I've always been curious on giving those games a try.
Here's
I guess the thing is that when you play like an older game like that, you have to understand that like certain certain conveniences and things like that.
yeah.
It's sort of something you have to like realize, like, okay, this game came out from the early 90s. There was no like way to streamline these sort of things, so you kind of have to like give it a little bit of a leeway.
Yeah.
A little bit of leniency, but sometimes it is kind of that difficulty where it's like, okay, how much do you go before it's like, okay, I'm not enjoying myself. It feels more like I'm not like, I feel like I have to work to enjoy this game rather than just enjoy the game for what it is. And nostalgia is also a thing that people, it's really hard, especially on the fucking internet. If you, God forbid, you tell someone that a game from their childhood might not be as good and we should be critically looking at it and how it stacks up today, you're going to get a lot of shit from people saying that, no, the game is perfect, you're just biased. My opinion of when I was a 6-year-old is more valid than yours now.
Which is why I think I think it was the IGN review, the only 10 out of 10 perfect score that they ever given the game was the Ocarina of Time port or remastered version for the 3DS, which I don't want to necessarily agree with every ratings I've seen. I've said this before, where I truly believe that if you look at something like Metacritic, you look at the Metacritic score and then you look at the user score. I personally feel like if you want to see where a game truly is, you take the averages on both of both the meta and the user score, and that's usually what the game sits. So if the users give them a 6 out of 10 and the Metacritics give it an 8 out of 10, in the game, I could comfortably say the game is a 7 out of 10. But seeing how the Ocarina of Time is like a 10 out of 10, I can see why it is, but personally, I don't think that is the case. But stuff like that, I can agree with certain people's opinions. I can respect that, and people still have the nostalgia glasses on. Obviously, the Ocarina of Time remaster was actually a good remaster,
Right.
but I wouldn't say a 10 out of 10. But again, it's all relative.
I think that personally, I think that not Metacritic, but like just game review scores, I think it's something that needs to be phased out, because I think that it trivializes so much on reviewing and what you point at a game, because then you start getting specific where it's like, okay, well, if you say God Hand is a 5 IGN and you give Imagine Babies a 7, does that mean Imagine Babies is better than God Hand? And I personally think that we should just be writing reviews and just be like, okay, this is my opinion, take from it, because you trivialize it. People don't give a shit at the end of the day that, okay, this person said this, and that. They're going to fast forward the review and be like, oh, this person gave it a 7, so he's biased. I'm like, what the fuck? Did you not read the context of that review?
No, and that's the issue with people, is they won't read what the review is. They'll read the first 3 sentences and be like, yep.
Or fuck it, they'll just skip the video.
Yeah, read the title.
Yep.
But here's the thing,
what are you
though,
gonna ask me, Marcos?
they take reviews too literally. They don't take it with a grain of salt. But I was gonna ask you that Daniel and I, we were eating steak the other day for a special day, and we were talking about this exact same topic. And obviously, it's quite apparent, and you've obviously must have seen that. A game developer is releasing a specific game, a specific IP, and developing companies want to release this game to certain they send out review copies to see them in a favorable light, so they get a little bit more positive reviews. it's a little niche. Obviously, there's some nuances here and there, but obviously, I don't understand how EA sports games in the past, like in 2018, got 9 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, where it was the same copy paste thing. But I feel like maybe a couple coin purses were tossed here and there. But I'm not saying anything. I have nothing to prove this. But all I'm saying is that you see a lot of these cases where people just want to release a review right away, and people just make fun of these same reviewers who can't complete certain games because it's too hard for them.
Right.
IG, an example is basically
The Crash Bandicoot remake.
the
that,
Souls games.
The guy.
So I wanted to ask you, at least on the record, do you think that, and this is something that Daniel and I agreed on as well, if you were a game reviewer
Okay.
for anything,
Mm-hmm.
would you feel like you needed to record your entire session and then publicize it and then give out your review? Or should you just have little snippets here and there of you doing your thing? Because honestly, I don't know if any of these reviewers actually play the game or not. But I feel
I
like
honestly feel like you should have like an hour, at least an hour session of you playing the game.
hmm,
Or, show your recorded amount of time that you've played the game. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Like let's say, because on Steam you have the ability, it says, how much time has been played. Heck,
right,
even on the Quest, it tells you how much time has been played. So
right,
all you need to do is, heck, I'll screenshot it. And I'll cut out, most of the screen so that people don't see, what icons I'm using, stuff like that. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
but you could see, like, here's the game, here's how much time I've played.
hmm,
And, if it says 17 hours and the review's about a 17-hour play session through whatever game it may be, then it's a legitimate review. But, like, people that reviewed Cyberpunk, how many hours did they play? You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
Well, they weren't even able to use their own footage, weren't
no,
they?
they weren't.
No,
But
no.
at the same
CD Projekt
time,
Red
like,
wouldn't let them.
what I'm saying is, they sent out reviews after an hour or two of playing. It's not like they reviewed
That's
the game.
not fair. That is not remotely fair.
Exactly.
You can't. It kind of reminds me when they review Metal Gear Solid 5. They put all these reviewers in a boot camp, put the game on uber easy mode so you can't fuck it up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, that's not fair because that's not how the average player is going to play this game. So
Exactly.
you're misleading it at that point.
So imagine just playing a Halo game, any Halo game,
On
on the
easy.
easiest difficulty and
Yeah.
complaining about how the enemies don't feel realistic. But when you play in legendary difficulties, you already know that hey, when you kill certain enemies in certain order, certain enemies just react differently. Their combat sort of changes a bit. Like if you kill an elite right away, and then you
Grunts, you got freaking grenades in their hands running at you.
right. But when you're playing on the easiest difficulty, grunts become one shot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
it's just But I feel like also not only showing footage but also the difficulty you played on, because you just see these reviewers just going throughout just the game. It looks like they're just having a just great old easy and fun
Oh
time.
yeah, like the reviewer that was trying to review what game was it? Doom Eternal, and he couldn't figure out where to go.
Oh yeah, at the very beginning of the level,
Yep.
dude.
Wait, was it Doom Eternal?
It
I
was
think I
Doom
remember
It was
this.
Eternal.
But
yeah, it was Doom Eternal.
it was Doom
Where
Eternal?
you
I
just
got
unlock the
lost.
ability to punch things and it moves everything. It's legit in the same room where you get your first weapon upgrade, I think.
Yeah.
I can't-
Yeah.
And-
And then so
and-
like
Are you
the guy was jumping around in circles. He couldn't figure out where to go. All he had to do is jump across the lava lake and like make it to a platform that was floating above it.
I think I might be thinking about the Polygon video that came out about like Doom 2016 because I remember something similar like that
They
happened.
sat there for 20 minutes trying to figure out where the hell they were going. And then they still reviewed the
Okay.
game,
Okay.
saying that it was too hard.
So here's the thing, though, Kenny. Someone like that, and I'm not saying anything about that person's character. I'm not saying anything about this person's ability
I'm
to
saying
do
they shouldn't be a
day-to-day
game
tasks.
journalist.
What I'm saying is, I'm not even saying that. If you show me a clip of something like that, that is the only argument that you can rationally give me to give me to convince me to say, hey, we should put waypoint markers on our games, because in Morrowind, I didn't have a problem reading
Right.
where I was supposed to go and if I'm in the right spot or not. It was fine. It felt a little bit more realistic. But if you showed me a clip of that, I would be inclined to say, all right, I'll be willing to compromise. But
just have a toggle. You know what I mean? Like, have a toggle. If somebody wants to play in a realism mode, where it's written down, then so be it. If somebody wants to play where it has, a generic quest marker where it just shows you the objective, or there's one that shows you exactly how to go or where to go.
Some games have a if you die too many times, or if you're in a spot where you're constantly having difficulties, it won't send you back to the last checkpoint. It'll send you back to the checkpoint before that.
Yep. Or Halo is actually one of those games. So like if you get stuck in a death trap,
right.
It'll reset to the load before it, and then you can try that portion again, or it'll recommend you to drop the difficulty. Just saying.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think like that's like the worst thing ever. It's like literally the game comes out of his hand and just says, "Hey, you're not gonna need these anymore," and yanks your balls off.
But it's not even that.
It's like,
it's the game auto saves. The game auto save. This happened to me once in vanilla Skyrim. The game auto saved me when I had no health. I was wanted. I forgot in what city. It might have been Falkreath, but I walked into a loading zone and then back out. The moment I walked back out, it auto-saved, and I kept dying and dying and dying. My last save, because this was an auto-save, my last save was an hour before that.
Oh, man.
Right, so...
having to retrace all those steps is such a pain in the butt.
This was on the 360, which is weird. There should have been like a couple auto-saves, but they were irrelevant. Never mind. That's what it was. So, yeah, it was annoying. So...
gotta save scum.
But here's the thing, though. Much like how, Daniel, you were talking about convenience, and I wanted to make a comment on that. I really don't enjoy fast traveling unless I legit completed most of the game. Because the amount of...
I can see where you're coming from. Like, I think the one game I fast traveled the least might be Breath of the Wild, because the exploring was the fun.
Oh, so you fast traveled
even when you're backtracking...
Spider-Man's pretty fun.
Oh, fuck no. No, I never fast traveled in Spider-Man.
Is like pointless. You might as well just...
Well, I only did it to get the...
They're enjoyable cutscenes, but no, like that's a perfectly good example. No, that game I have, like, web swinging is the fun.
Right.
Yep.
So, even in Skyrim, there are quests that you can only have active if you go out of your way, instead of fast running from city to city, from quest point to quest point. Like, one of the Daedric artifacts is you getting to talk to a talking dog if you walk out of the city, a certain part of the city. But if you're constantly fast traveling, you'll never have this quest activated. So I just feel like there are places that the game devs actually put time to put this in here, and fast traveling is something that really ruins the immersion a bit, which is why, and I'll be frank with you guys. Even though my name is Marcos, I'll be frank with you guys.
No,
Fallout 76.
I'd rather you be Marcos with me.
I get it, but sometimes I gotta change my persona a little bit, I played Fallout 76.
Is that why you have...
It was a rather enjoyable experience with friends. Obviously, this is when they added the NPCs, and I was having a fun time with friends. Fast traveling cost caps, and if you didn't know a proper way to get caps, then...
it's expensive.
It gets expensive.
That's the exact same thing with Elder Scrolls Online.
Right. And that is a method I'm not too mad at, because obviously there could be a point where you just get close enough where you can just fast travel. But in a game like Fallout 76, like, I don't care about the fast traveling because there really is no bigger narrative point, and the immersion won't really kill you in that game if you miss it. So, but stuff like The Witcher 3, there are points where I specifically don't fast travel in order to actually immerse myself more into the world, because it's not something I quite enjoyed. Heck, Skyrim, I think the special edition had the creator thingy. I forget what it was.
The Creation Club.
Creation Club, and that included Skyrim hardcore mode, basically, where you have to eat.
Yeah, survival mode. It's like the real survival mode.
The only way of fast traveling was paying a carriage to take you to a main city. But the thing was, you had to pay for it, and not every city had a carriage, which didn't break the immersion per se. But if your quest is in, I don't know, the most southern point of Skyrim, and you're in Winterhold, you would fast travel to a main city that's close to it, and then you would make your way there. And that's not too game breaking, but all I will say is that stuff like that, for convenience sakes, is again relative what you want in the game. But it kind of sucks that people just fast travel nonstop, and then, like, I don't know, maybe like a year later they go, "Oh guys, did you realize you can find this in the game?" People say, "Oh, I never knew that." Well, of course you never saw this, or you never knew about this because you fast traveled.
Yep.
Obviously, there's.
Yeah, that's true. I think I could attest to that, because like with Red Dead Redemption 2, admittedly though, I was kind of speeding through it because I was like, okay, I don't want to get spoiled. The game already came out. I'm just like getting into the story. But when I did my second playthrough on PC, I still haven't finished the story. I was just so distracted, just like exploring shit. And unfortunately though, this is Rockstar's design, and Rockstar had this thing like, well, this doesn't happen until we tell you to. But there was moments where it's like I explored a cave that there's a significant importance when you activate a cutscene, but there isn't that like payout where it's like, oh, I'm gonna explore this cave, and you like go into the crevices and shit like that, and then you find nothing. You find absolutely nothing. You find
a big ass treasure chest at the end for it to just have like meat in it.
No, not even that though. There's just nothing. The game just doesn't load anything. Nikki Jakey brought up this good example with like Rockstar's game design, where it's like only things happen when we allow it to. Whereas like he brought up the poker game up in Saint Denis, where if you pay a homeless guy, the homeless guy would say, "Hey, go up to this gun store right above on the second floor. They have a poker game you could rob." And he thought like, oh, "Okay, that's kind of cool." So he finds out how to climb up to the second floor of the gun store, and he could hear the poker game. But he can't interact with the door. He can't open it. He can't do this and that. Instead, he has to go back downstairs, do exactly what Rockstar tells him to do. Is like, no, now you got to tell the gun store owner that, hey, I'm going to rob the poker game. You got to open up the door for me. And that kind of deflates it, because it's like you're not discovering something that the game put there. You're just now following the script and the play that the game tells you to follow.
Yeah. One thing with...
And I think that's like something that I would like to see more in future Rockstar games, where it's like, hey, be more like GTA 3 and not GTA Vice City. I mean, GTA 5.
Well, I will say, though, that you brought up a great game, honestly, when it comes to immersion, because there are so many things I love doing. I have yet to get past Chapter 3, because I'm busy, whenever I get back on the game, hunting, exploring, the amount of stuff the game devs put into the game. I'm talking about, hey, here's a random fortress that was there from the Civil War, and you can find weapons inside of it. You find a Viking helmet and a Viking hatchet, and it's pretty freaking cool, really cool.
Yeah, that's fun. Like, I think that's what the games should be more designed around. Is that right. Like, let's not make specific moments in this one map. Let's make the whole world a part of the gameplay experience in the campaign, because there's that drastic disconnect between the two, where it's like one is a linear movie-like gameplay experience, but it's like, but isn't this game open world? Like, why is it so like one half on the other? You know
what I prefer over fast travel in Red Dead Redemption 2? The cinematic mode, when you just hold the you're riding a horse and you have a waypoint set, and you just hit the cinematic mode, and Arthur is just riding, doing his own thing, and then you can be on your phone if you want to. Many times I just held the X button on my PlayStation controller, and I'm on my phone. But then obviously the immersion gets broken with gunshots or someone saying, "Hey, you stop," and stuff like that. I prefer that mode of traveling, even though I'm not there. I prefer it over just fast travel. Also,
okay, so I will say there's like a more of a counter argument to that. There's a reason why people fast travel, and it could be due to the fact that they're strapped on time. Let's say they only have 2 hours to play a game.
Right.
And then they just want to get into the action. They'll fast
Right.
travel across the map and get to where they have to go quicker so that they can have more time playing the game rather
Right.
than
I'm not making that argument.
traveling.
I'm making the argument of if you want to be more immersed in the world, there are
Oh,
options.
of course.
Right, and
But
obviously
now like the new consoles are pushing and striving for quicker load times, so
right.
you can get back into the action.
So
Fuck, I forgot I have a PlayStation
let me
5.
Wow.
let me comment on that actually. So in Spider-Man, since we brought up Spider-Man before,
Yeah.
if you're inside a what I forgot those base missions where you go into a base
Like that.
full of villains that you have to round up because there's illegal activities happening up here, and then the enemies get rounded up, and then the police come. All right.
Mhm.
So in Spider-Man 2018, Insomniac 2018, you load in, you go into the entrance, load screen. Then you have to do what you have to do, defeat waves of enemies. Then once you're out, like I want to say 30 seconds of load time. The new Miles Morales game on
It's pretty
on the
instant.
PS5. Hey, you want to get out of this base you just finished clearing up? Web sling to this specific point, and you're inside of the warehouse, and instantaneously you're web slinging out of New York. It's
Mhm.
seamless, absolutely seamless.
Oh
So
yeah.
obviously it's a lot more stuff like
It's
that becomes
intuitive.
it's a lot more immersive as well because obviously a loading screen also breaks immersion.
Yeah.
So stuff like that is quite great. It's just fantastic. So I see your point, Kenny. I get that argument, and it's not the argument I'm making.
I
But
like the way
if
that Cyberpunk does their fast traveling.
you mean the new form of fast traveling where you aim down your sight and then you dodge and then you run faster than the car? Yeah, I like that fast traveling too.
yeah, that one too. But no, they have like
Wait,
little
so there's
fast
wave.
travel stations that you have to drive to. So
Oh, I like
like
that. Yeah, I like that.
it's not in every.
Wait, you could wave dash.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can
wave dash in
basically
Yeah,
wave
you
Cyberpunk.
dash
can.
in
Nice.
Cyberpunk. You aim and then you do a certain dodge maneuver and you get flung. Basically, yeah, you're wave dashing and it's faster than the car, and actually, it's a lot more fun.
But no, there's like you have to drive to specific spots. It's like blue checkpoints pretty much that you'll see on the map. And then you go there and you can fast travel to any of the nearest ones closest to your objective, and then you still have to like drive and stuff. So it's not as much exploring, but they're still exploring in the game.
So, allow me to talk to you about a mod I enjoyed in Skyrim when I played it on the PC for a little bit.
Right.
Do you remember in the Dawnguard DLC the little teleportation hubs?
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, they were like mirrors. They almost looked like
Yeah.
mirrors. So in Skyrim, they have once you complete the Dawnguard DLC, um,
You got the sixth
I
one.
forgot how the mod worked, but you can have those same teleportation things, and they're scattered all across Skyrim, but they're not super abundant. But in order to teleport there, you have to not only activate it, but there's processes in activating that said tower or that said structure. So stuff like that is actually quite cool. Mods find a great way for fast traveling. But I get your argument. It's again, like I've said this entire episode, it's relative. It's indeed relative. So, if you're gonna
I think the hardest thing is that, like, what Kenny brought up is like you don't have time, and I could relate to
right,
that tremendously because, I think another reason why multiplayer games are so like prevalent and super easy is because a lot of these games are easy to pick up and play. Because we're all adults here. Sometimes you don't have enough time because we gotta wake up, go to work, and things like that, and you don't have enough time to dedicate to play those like super long, time heavy games. And it's kind of crazy because it's like on my days off I'm like looking forward to be like, okay, I can't wait to like just dedicate all my time to this one game. I think that's probably why I've been like so out of favor with RPGs for so long, because like RPGs are massive time commitments. I mean, I know coming from a guy who used to play Final Fantasy 14, but look at me now. I'm not playing the game now because I just know like I'm not gonna have time to play this. So it's just that people also make the argument that like going back to RPGs for a second, when character boot, that's a question. I don't know some games do this. The idea of like paying for progression, for example. WoW does it. Final Fantasy 14 does it. I guess you could count the Assassin's Creed games does it now. Some people look at that and be like, well, I could just play the game and level up my character, then eventually continue on the story, or I could, buy the progression. But then at that point, it's like, well, why the fuck did you buy the game in the first place? Like, progression should be the fun of the game. Like, you should be enjoying leveling up your character because that's part of the experience.
Right. Especially on games with not Assassin's Creed in particular, but in games where they throttle the EXP gain, where it promotes you to do side quests because it makes everything else easier because you level up more, you get more EXP, you get more gold, you find more equipment doing side quests instead of just focusing on the main quest, which ties into Kenny's argument about being time consuming. So I get why people play it on the easier difficulty, just have a fun time, but at what point does fun become brain dead? I guess it's a standard you set for yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just even if it takes me a month to play a game because I don't have enough time, I'll play it and I'll have fun with it on the hardest difficulty, playing my way. But I'm not the general rule. I'm not the way people. I shouldn't be the example. But I get the arguments. I get it all. But there were times where I would work. What was it? I would go to school full time and then go to work full time, and then the moment I get home, I just shower and then do homework and then go to sleep. And then on the weekends is when I played, and that's all I did on the weekends was play video games. I just no life myself.
Yeah, I've been like that before, man. I mean, there's been so many games like I've no life to recently. Like I think the first one I can remember in recent memory was Breath of the Wild. Like that was a game that when I had the time, I would only just play that, and that's probably why I haven't like ever went back to my save file, because it's like, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of shit I could still do with that game, but to me, like all the time and commitment I put into that save file makes me be like, okay, this is fun and all, but if I'm gonna get back into it, I want to start fresh all over again. That's the same thing with me with Spider-Man. Like with Spider-Man, I was like, I really wanted to play it, but when you play that game, 2 hours is actually like 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I remembered when I told people that like Miles Morales is really short, that's because I wanted to get my money's worth. I was frustrated because like, fuck, I want to play this game, but I can't because I have to work. And I was like, screw that. I'm just going to play it for 2 days straight, like nothing but this. And then I got my money's worth. I 100% and I put it away. And that's just what I'm doing right now with like Yakuza 0. I'm enjoying Yakuza 0 because I'm taking my time, do all the side content and things like that. But when you're kind of in a rush, you're like, okay, you start doing the story content, and you're like, oh fuck, now there's a cutscene that's playing, and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go to work soon, and you're kind of like, not enjoying
really,
the story.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a stressful hurry.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just like that's frustrating. So sometimes there's certain games where it's like, okay, this is a multiplayer game, I could pick up and play, I could drop it any time. And then there's other games where it's like, okay, this is more story driven, this is more time consuming, more time investment.
Yeah.
You leave that for the other days.
I do enjoy. I wanted to get into Yakuza,
and hopefully one day I'll be able to play video games for a living. So fuck it, I could play video games as work.
Yeah, that's the dream. I will say though, I have been watching the gameplay for Yakuza, and it's just a meme overall. Narrative-wise, it's just...
Oh, fuck it, dude. It is fantastic. It is like, I don't know how much of a fucking tonal shift I could explain, but you could be watching a story cutscene and look at a motherfucker in the face and be like, this dude has probably killed men, he's probably tortured them, he's probably doing this and that, but hey, man, we're gonna go play at the disco game, and I'm just like, this game is fucking fantastic.
Dude. So...
This is phenomenal. This is and listen, man. When people tell me that, hey, this game takes place in Japan, nothing tops Yakuza. I did not know this until just like, I'm not shitting you. Did you know in Japan they hand out tissues for free?
Really?
There's some dude on the yeah. You could like, okay, I'm walking down the street. I'm fucking Kazuma. I probably like beat the shit. I probably put like 12 men in a coma up to this point. And I'm like walking down this guy, and you could have this talk dialogue towards him. And I look at him, and I press X, and he says, "Oh, you got a pocket full of tissue." Like, what the fuck? And I realized, I'm like, wait, that can't be
sunshine.
There you go.
I googled it, and I realized that Japan has a fucking, I think it's a marketing system where they straight up just hand out tissues to you.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then you just like realize, like, I think like the first game I ever realized that sometimes like Japanese based games are pretty accurate. I remember playing The World Ends with You, and it is pretty scary how accurate Shibuya is interpreted in that game. Like, you could use the map of the game as essentially a basic general map of real life Shibuya. And in Yakuza, basically every fucking alley is its own like shopping center. Like, it's pretty weird that like you could go to an alley, like this dingy fucking alley, and there'll be like 12 restaurants right next to each other.
This is why I
and it's
enjoyed
like
the original, the trilogy. Well, Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, and 3, because historically they were accurate in a lot of ways, and because of that, you get to see certain standards, and that's what I like a lot about video games that are accurate.
Yeah.
Like what you just mentioned with Yakuza, you learn more about the culture that the game was based off on, and I liked it. I like games like that. It really opens up your.
And it's just, and I think that what makes it good is that we need to stop like 4kidsing the shit out of everything. We need to just be like, hey, this game is from Japan. It's gonna have Japanese things. You're not gonna understand, but you might learn from it. And the game doesn't like address it for the dumb Americans. They just treat it like normal. So that's kind of crazy that now all the Yakuza games are getting released here to the West. Because I remember when this was considered a niche series at one point. So yeah, I think that it's I sometimes when a game is based on a world setting, you kind of learn a little bit from it, and maybe might interest you to look more into it, and then more games will be based around that setting.
I will say though, it's happened with a few, very very few video games, but there have been cases where I am working or I am busy, my schedule's too tight, but I would read something, either a book, a novel, or a manga, and I just like, damn, dude, I can't wait until I have to like go to the bathroom or something so I can read just a little bit more, or take a break, stuff like that. So it's just so good, having that feeling of going back, even though to a game, to something else that takes your time, even though you're short on time. Even before going to sleep, playing like 30 minutes of a video game is always something I did. When it came to when I had my Nintendo Switch and I had no time of my own because I was in school as well. But it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, I would take my Switch with me everywhere.
Speaking of the Switch, did you guys see the Lenovo Switch?
No.
Yeah, Lenovo's coming out with like a handheld. I sent it to you guys under topics. It's a Lenovo Switch concept, and it looks like it has a built-in like almost kind of like a laptop hinge on the bottom of it for standing it up. And then the controllers on the sides are wider but smaller.
Remember the Alien?
Dude, I wish they would come out with it. I want it. I need it in my life. But now that I have a Quest, I'm thinking about selling my Switch.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because I'm gonna probably be one of those really big VR adopters.
Hey man, that's fine. I mean, I'm looking for more friends to play VR games with.
Yeah.
Oh wow, look at these. Try selling it to my brother. He's trying to buy a whole bunch of Switches for his thing that he's going on.
Yeah.
I will say though that I don't think I'll be too big into gaming where I'll have all the consoles again.
Right.
Like how I had not, like previously I had a PS4 Pro, an Xbox One S, and the Switch. I don't think I'm gonna get the new Switch that's gonna come out eventually. If it's gonna be the same thing, neither am I gonna get the Xbox. I'm really debating if I should get the PS5 at all.
As someone who's spent the money, right now it is not worth it in the slightest.
Well, I know it's not worth it at the moment because there's not enough games for it that are just for PS5.
Nope.
Which I feel like my brother's gonna get it eventually, and I'll have first-hand experience with it, maybe with a few games. But I'm not too hyped for this gen. With the 360 and the PS3 gen, and also with the Xbox One and PS4 gen.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit more tied, a little bit more. I felt more involved with it. That I wanted to be part of it. But now it's not much. You can obviously.
That was. I was just thinking about that too. When I was watching the Game Awards, when they were showing off that Pearl Abyss game. Well, that Pearl Abyss is the developer, the guys who made Black Desert. And all I could think about whenever I saw these trailers is think like, could these games just run on the PlayStation 4?
Right.
Like really think about it. Like, couldn't these games just run on the PlayStation 4? Like, the only next gen I feel like about this generation that we're in right now is just the SSD, which I think it is a natural upgrade.
Yeah.
I think that it is a significant boost, but as far as graphics and gameplay fidelity goes, I don't know. Could the Demon's Souls remake run on the PlayStation 4 Pro? Most likely. Maybe not at a good frame rate. Probably not. But would it be that impossible?
Maybe not.
And that's not either like one of the better selling titles. Well, not better selling, but like one of the other titles that isn't Demon's Souls is also on the PlayStation 4.
Right.
So it's
yeah,
like, and I played it on the PlayStation 4 to 100%, and I had fun with it. Don't get me wrong, it runs great on the PlayStation 5, but do you really want to buy another? I mean, it does, and it shows too, because the sales numbers of that game of Miles Morales are nowhere near as good as Spider-Man 2018. But I guess people are just like, well, I'm not going to pick up this. I wouldn't say that, but I would say more. It's more like the idea that people just want to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to pick up the game because I want to play it on the PlayStation 5, but I can't get a PlayStation 5, so I'm not going to get it.
Right.
Oh yeah,
I get it.
I mean,
I get it. But I guess, again, I'll keep saying it again. Yeah, it's all relative. Like people get a little bit too hungover on one's own point of view, and they feel like it's the right one. But
Right.
it is what
Nope,
it is.
you're biased.
Yeah. And just checking yourself is kind of hard. You know, your nose is really, really great at pointing out what's a good set and what's a wrong set, but it has a bad time at pointing out if your breath stinks or not. So stuff like that is something that you got to keep checking yourself on. But whatever makes you happy, just do it, man. At the end of the day, I'm cool with whatever you're cool with. Just don't force it down my throat.
Right.
Exactly.
Don't. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap with Marcos's word of wisdom. Thank you so much for listening to episode 10 of TKM. We're officially hit the double digits, boys, and we're now starting 2021 in a pretty good note. I'm definitely looking forward to see what we can go from here, and hopefully we could do more projects for this brand, not just only podcasting, but we'll have to wait and see where that goes. But I'll keep the audience in the secret. Shh, you little secrets. But we're gonna go ahead and just wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for listening to DKM. Make sure you guys can follow us both on Twitter. Make sure, because we do have a Twitter, we do post and I do retweet whenever the new episodes comes out on my personal Twitter, and so does Kenny. Marcos, get on that shit. You know, these progress reports are not impressing me, boy.
Don't like social media. But yeah, I gotta
don't
try.
like social media. You gotta live off the grid.
I also have
man.
a new shameless plug. I have a new schedule for my Twitch stream, so it's I Am Buttered altogether. It's now on Thursdays, roughly 6 p.m. So come check me out.
Cool.
My stream schedule at the moment is
Non-existent.
let me get back to you on that. Anyways. But yeah, so thank you so much, guys. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify. We have this now on Google Podcasts. We have everywhere pretty much that can put us available. So make sure you follow us and, you know, follow us on Twitter, because we do post tweets relating to the podcast and other projects relating to the DKM brand. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, guys. Have a good one and take care.